Hey everyone, I'm Will and welcome to another video. One of the things that really drew me into landscape photography and has kept me inspired and motivated is the call of the unknown. I've always let curiosity lead me with my photography, which has naturally led to me exploring and photographing many places that aren't really photographed before. It's just something that I've always loved. I find it so inspiring to look at something for the very first time without having any preconceived ideas. Scouting is something that people often ask me about because obviously I do a lot of location scouting. Where I'm based here in Fiordland, that's pretty much one big wilderness playground. There is so much exploring to do. Now, the exploration that I do in a lot of my photography, it could either be just a few hundred meters from the side of a road in a dense forest, or it could be many, many kilometers right out there in the backcountry. So there's so many various degrees of exploration. And even when I first started my photography journey in Australia, a lot of it was just exploring coastlines and just following along the cliffs and just seeing what type of rock shelves and different details I could find out in seascape. So your exploration is going to be dependent on where you're located and where you're traveling to and your fitness and everything like that. But from a photography standpoint, it could just simply be the fact that you took an extra 10 minutes to walk away from the obvious and now you've found something completely unexpected. Even in your own photography process, I want to encourage you to try your own little bit of exploration because it really will bring out that creative side and inspiration. In this specific video, I want to share with you my workflow for scouting locations, and I want you to join me out in the field because I think I found something pretty special here. So in the last 12 months, I've been using a boat to get out on the lakes here. So I want to show you the process looking at Google Earth, topographic maps, and then we're actually going to go out and see if what we've found here is going to be fruitful and inspirational for some good landscape photography. So let's take a look. So one of the main really useful tools to use for scouting, specifically scouting mountain locations, Google Earth. Google Earth just really will give you a very quick and easy outlook of the landscape, particularly the mountains. So we're going to zoom in now, Te Anau, my home base. You can see how expansive the lake is here, not to mention Lake Menopori next door. We're going to zoom in. Now, one of the things I'll typically do is zone in and then look at things from more or less a ground level because I want to see how mountains will potentially look from shooting them on the ground. Obviously, the thing with mountains is their perspective will change so much depending on your elevation and which angle you're facing them from. One of the things I will do initially when scouting is just kind of hover around. Take yourself on a scenic flight, basically. You can do that very easily in Google Earth. There is a mobile version as well. I generally prefer the laptop though. You can see very quickly, like I'm just right clicking and sliding left and right. And this is how you can kind of track around. And what I'm looking for when it comes to mountain photography is a nice characteristic peak, some part of the mountain range which just stands out from the rest. I want to have a natural resting place for the eye, a clearly defined subject matter. You'll see with mountains, depending on the angle, how much they'll change. So we have over here Mount Lyell, for example, and if we look at Mount Lyell and we'll spin around now, just watch how the summit and peak changes. That we've got a very characteristic section in there, becomes more of a knife edge, and then we come here, more symmetry, triangles. That's one of the heavy things I'm looking for. If I was going to look at potentially shooting Lyell, then you'd look down on the lake and look what we have here. Here's a beach, so that would be a perfect spot to be able to shoot from and at least get a boat to. We've got forest there, so you'd be looking for incorporating forest into the image, and then we pan up and now we get a perspective. We're not looking at Mount Lyell though. I found something a bit different. So let's get some height and we're going to go on a flight further up the lake and let's have a look at this. So initially I was looking at creeks on the topo, which we'll get to shortly. But if we run right up this northern end, right up here, have a look at this mountain perspective. And from this distance, I know the mountains don't look like much, but then as we come down, we're coming down. Now I'm going to pan up, have a look at this bad boy. So at this height, the mountains are all blending together, the different summits and ridges, but from down here, and now we're going to pan up, take a look at this. We'll get down a bit lower actually. And here we go, panning up, kaboom. That is basically the jackpot. That is what I'm looking for when it comes to mountain scenery. Just a big, symmetrical, clearly defined, dominant peak. That's what I love. It's my passion. I just love that stuff. I find it so inspiring to look up at a big, grand mountain. So that's, okay, we've found the peak. Bang, good, we've got the subject matter. The next question is, well, what's the rest of the scenery look like? Can you access it? What can we incorporate into the frame? And as you can already see, look at this river delta here that's flowing out. Sorry, I've just pushed the wrong button. Zoom back down. So we have this creek flowing out of this huge valley. We've got the delta and lots of sand there to potentially go ashore with the boat. And having the creek there is probably going to provide a good foreground matter, or even in the midground. Some moving water is always great to incorporate in the scene. So there is so much potential there. So all of that has ticked a lot of boxes. The next tool that I'll often use, let's have a look now, the topographic map. So I'm often every day looking at this on my phone. We've got the laptop version here, and you'll see when we run along, going further up, we'll go to that exact same location. Right up here, here's our creek, and there is our beach right there. I like to use the topo to confirm what I'm looking at on Earth, because Earth is not perfect, but we can see how steep that mountain is in this area here. 1400 meters elevation, and then it's a good opportunity to just double check that landing zone as well. So looking from this perspective now, we're going to launch the boat from right down here, and then we've got a good almost 20 kilometers to access our beach on this northern end. Pretty much all the boxes are ticked now. When I go out scouting, I'm not really trying to time this with great light, depending on the location. This one in particular, because we have quite a lot of boating to do, I'm happy to just head out early morning and we'll just suss things out. The last tool that I'd potentially use is something like photo pills or the photographer's ephemeris, just to look at the sunrise and sunset directions. This direction here, we're basically looking to the northeast. So if we want light on that peak, side light is generally best with the mountains. Sunset for sure, even sunrise, but as we get later into the year, the sunrise moves further north, and that will become more of a backlit scene, I'd imagine, because the sun would be rising off to that right-hand side. So I think probably sunset. However, in the morning is typically when you get more atmosphere. So I think this will be a location that I'll potentially visit quite a few times, and being at 1400 meters, that will get a nice base of snow on it as we approach into autumn and obviously winter. The great thing about this beach that we're looking at as well, there's a lot of potential here for camping. There's so much room there. You could easily explore that creek further. It looks like there's heavy flow in this most of the time. We have a lot of side tributaries coming in and feeding this creek. It just looks like an absolute gold mine. So I think we're going to pack up the boat. Let's head out. My son, Judah, who's 10 years old, he's going to join us on this one, and I just can't wait to get out there and see what we can do. We might take a few example photos and we'll review those towards the end of the video. So let's get the boat ready. We'll get out and we'll see if this looks as good as what we're seeing here on Earth. So we're just making our way up the lake now. There's some wonderful layering and atmosphere in this direction. So I might just have a quick look through the telephoto lens at what we've got here. And there's an island in the front, right in front of us. And then that goes through to the background with the valley and the peaks. The atmosphere looks amazing. Just move the boat forward slightly. Line up this big tree. Can you just steer us, mate? Go to the right. Slow right. Yeah, that's good. And I'll get you to just go towards the sun, basically. And then I'm just going to shoot up that valley one more time, okay? Need a co-pilot on these jobs, don't we, mate? Alright, so Judah's just running along, but this angle looking up to the mountains here. These are the unexpected moments. This is why you come out with your camera. You just never know what's going to happen. There's some epic mountain layering. All right, that's good, Judah. Just hold that line. It's gonna be a bit hard to show you on the GoPro, but woo, look at that mountain behind us. Yeah, that's good. Just hold that. There's one specific branch I like up here. Love this mountain. You can see that one from way back and I'm always looking at it. It's nice to get up close. Beautiful peak. Triangular peak. We're going to have some low cloud block the views for a minute, but already from what I've seen it's looking fantastic. So the main part now is what is the shoreline like, what's it going to be like getting to land and looking up at this thing. But man, woo, looks good. Oh mate, look at that. This is what I wanted to come and look at. Look at the size of that thing. Wow. Actually better than I expected. Probably because we've got this atmosphere as well. Woo. So we're just going to run along the shoreline and see what we're in for as far as potential landings go, and then foreground. It's quite photogenic now, so I'm going to check out this shoreline. Wow, that is a mountain. So I can see the creek flowing out. It's got good volume on it, which is amazing because it's been relatively dry lately. Got that creek there, and if there's a beach around the corner, it's probably a little bit too rocky to pull up here, but that creek would make a good foreground. This whole area looks incredible, but look at that.
When the water's up.
Yeah, when the lake level's up, you'll get up there easy.
That's where the water line usually is.
Oh, there's a beach around the corner. I think I'll park in and do a quick shot. Man, that's one of the best mountain views along this whole lake. So I'm gonna chuck the wide angle on. I definitely would love to come back with some fresh snow on this, and maybe some cloud and colour. But even now, with the atmosphere and the gentle light, it's incredibly photogenic. And we'll go for a quick walk on the shoreline and see how she looks. Hidden paradise. Oh, ready. Wow, let's go check out this creek.
I'm not going in there. Yes.
All right, just checking out potential angles. This creek is always going to be changing anyway, but I am curious to see how it lines up here with the mountain backdrop. There's some great cascades at the mouth of this
creek. Potentially a photo here anyway. So we'll do our best, but the intention is to come back. Different conditions. Snow is obviously going to be the jackpot. It looks really good on the wide angle. Gives you an idea, something like this. And then of course maybe just getting a more exciting foreground. What a great spot to camp as well. You can park up in that cove. I'm excited, as you can probably tell. All right. This is the, yeah, that's a great perspective here. Look at that, flowing out to the lake. Got the whole range back there and a nice characteristic point. That would just be a bonus shot. Gives you a plan B as well if you came out here to camp. You've got two perspectives. Try and dip your feet first.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you picked up the excitement in my voice. All that atmosphere's burned off now. It's amazing how quick it can all change. So it was really good to get here in some good conditions too, to get a feel for it. Lots of potential, great for camping, driftwood everywhere for fire, an angle looking the opposite direction. So there's just so much potential here. Super stoked that you never know when you're scouting using the maps and everything. Sometimes, especially if mountains, they might not quite have the shape that you'd hoped, but it's honestly better than I was thinking actually, because of just with all the trees below and this cove, the shoreline. So much potential, and it's exciting to know that it will always be different too because of that creek.
Where to now?
Start heading back, I think.
Yeah.
Shows you how much is out here. It's just such a big lake. Lots to explore.
It's a sample.
Yeah. Only good thing about autumn and winter is they go away a bit more.
Yeah. So inside, that side.
Yeah. All right, thanks for joining me out there, guys. Obviously, I was pretty excited. It was so great to see this place in person, and it's just my favourite part of photography, really. Now, I've got a couple of reference images here. These are not meant to be great photographs at all. I wasn't bothering with the right shutter speeds or dialing in the compositions exactly. This is just a bit of an indication of how I might approach it, and just gave me a feel for what's out there. So I've just balanced out the dynamic range anyway, so we can see what's going on. But really, this is what I'd be looking for, is trying to incorporate that creek with a better shutter speed. Obviously, what's at 1/8, so you probably want to go a bit slower to drag that out. And then we've got that beautiful peak in the back. As I mentioned out there, if we could get some cloud, that would be ideal. Cloud with the colour, obviously, maybe a dramatic sky. The atmosphere was great. This could work well on a rainy day too, as long as you could see the mountain, and if we just had some low fog and atmosphere coming out of the forest. Lots of potential. Now, one of the challenges with the area, if I got down low, which really helps with your foreground and makes, you can see the difference in this foreground compared to that foreground. That's very flat. It's all the same size. When I'm down lower, we have that nice diminishing perspective where the creek is large and then just slowly disappears. That's great. The problem though with getting low here is this little wall that's been carved out. Now what that's doing is removing our midground. We've lost that middle area which we have in this frame where we can see the lake. The importance of that is it helps create depth, because you're seeing all these stones along the top here progressively get smaller and fade off into the distance. On this lower perspective, it's not happening. We just have a massive wall there cutting things in. So when I eventually return, that's going to be the challenge. How do I showcase that mid-ground area, especially the lake? That's a really nice touch to have back there, but get down low enough to have more impact and depth with the foreground. That's going to be the balancing act. That's a problem for another day. That's the only thing I'd say is going to be a challenge here. But that creek's always going to be changing direction and flow, so hopefully the next time after more rain, there might be more options. So we'll see. There's probably potential as well for going up into the forest, which I didn't do on the day. But going up into the trees and maybe seeing what perspectives there are looking at the peak, especially using a tighter focal length and maybe just going for more of a frame like this, but then having trees framing up either side. So I can't wait. It's obviously lots of potential there. And then this perspective too. So looking back out onto the lake, that could be timed with something spectacular. We often get a lot of rainbows here in the mornings in the spring when we get these westerly fronts roll through. So, you know, getting some light and maybe a rainbow there, I can really see that happening. So certainly would love to return. This gives you an idea of what I'm looking for, how I like to do my scouting. Sometimes when I'm scouting, you can get there on that first visit and everything comes together. But this time, it was just a great way to check it out, and it's given me the appetite to get back and spend a couple of nights out here with various conditions. So we'll get that in a future video. If you have any questions at all, please leave them below. Thank you for your support, your thumbs up, subscribing to the channel. It all means a lot. Cheers.